If the season ended today, where would Nico Iamaleava be in the Heisman race? I have my column up. I do have a vote. I'll tell you what I think. But first, if this was the end of the year and you were sending in your vote, who would it be?
Well, if the season ended today in the Heisman race, Nico Iamaleava wouldn't even be among the 10 finalists right now. He's just,
With the
I don't.
numbers he's put up and what you've seen with your eyeballs?
What I've seen with my eyeballs is one thing, but what I've seen with my eyeballs would factor in on where I would take him in the NFL draft, maybe, but not. Nico Iamaleava is not even top 40 in passing yards so far this year. He's not top 15 in quarterback rating. He's not top. I'm looking at it now. He's not top 20 in passing touchdowns. It's really hard for me to look at those numbers. And also, Tennessee's signature win is against a really bad NC State team. Look, I think I have money on Nico Iamaleava winning the Heisman. I think he's going to win the Heisman. But if it ended right now, he wouldn't. You wouldn't even consider taking him to New York right now. Nobody would.
Then let me ask you a combination of questions, because that's the way I'm trying to write my column, and I hope people appreciate it. A combination of what you've seen to this point and what you believe will happen. So you've gone on record that Nico will win the Heisman this season. Caleb said that 6 months ago. He's either going to be right or wrong. We'll either laud him for his great ahead of the curve pick, or we'll make fun of him. Maybe a dunce cap will be involved. I don't know. But based off where you think it'll be, it's Nico. So let me phrase the question like this. Right now, based off what you've seen and what you project forward, who's his greatest challenger?
Okay, based on that, I think his greatest challenger is very clearly Cam Ward. I can't deny what Cam Ward's been doing so far. His numbers are through the roof. He's thrown for over 1,000 yards. He's got 11 touchdowns. He's got 1 interception, completing 73% of his passes. I look at that and I think, this guy's incredible. The other guy that so right now, my Heisman leader is Cam Ward. And as of right now, he's the best quarterback in football.
Okay, Cam Ward is number 2 on my list. Nico is number 3. Jackson Dart is number 4. Carson Beck is number 5. Now, this is, again, based off what I have seen and what I think will happen for the remainder of the season. So it's a combination of both. So who do you think my number 1 is?
So you said Jackson Dart is you said Jackson Dart and Carson Beck are behind Nico, and Cam Ward's right ahead of Nico.
I think, for the record, Nico and Jackson Dart are the best 2 quarterbacks in college football. And I think that will prove to be true when they're picked 1 and 2. Or they won't be in the same class, but when they're picked with one of the top selections, top 5 in the NFL draft. I will just go on record and tell you that.
Is Jalen Milroe number 1 for you?
I'll tell you after 30 seconds from Banks and Jones. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. It is Jalen Milroe, and here's why. He is second in quarterback efficiency to Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart has not played anybody. Milroe has at least played Wisconsin. And got a win there. And I don't think Wisconsin's world beaters. Nico is number 3, followed by Quinn Ewers. So, yes, Jalen Milroe, right now in my mind, I would project forward based off what I have seen and what I think will happen. And that could all change if Nico shows me a big win on the road. And I'm not really sure that a win-loss is a quarterback stat. We can have that debate at another time. But right now, it would be Jalen Milroe. And I have a feeling you're about to flip your wig because you are not a big believer in Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe.
Well, okay. Because you were basing the because you're mixing in projections and production, yeah, I'm losing my mind. If you were just going straight on production to this point, one, you wouldn't have Nico in your top 5 either. I mean, even you would have to acknowledge me on that if you went straight on production to this point.
Well, yes, but it wouldn't be because of your. I don't. It would be because of the. There's not a 3-game season, like like COVID or something. But yes, he hasn't played really anybody. But NC State's not horrible. But I would have him in the top 10 based off what he's done, based off the eye test as well. But we can debate that. And I think it's quarterback rating that's more important than yards, just for the record.
Okay, but where I'm getting at is, the reason I'm losing it over you saying Jalen Milroe was because I don't think Jalen Milroe was going to be this effective throughout the rest of the year based on your standards of actually using projections. Okay, I hate to say this. I hate to stereotype, but Wisconsin's a slow football team, guys. I hate to stereotype that whole Big Ten, but guys, they're slow. And a running quarterback like Jalen Milroe is designed to be able to torch defenses like Wisconsin's. He's not designed in Kalen DeBoer's system to be able to do that against SEC defenses. I just don't believe it. And so I don't think Kalen DeBoer will be able to adjust his offense. If he does, guys, I'm going to say Kalen DeBoer's coach of the year right now. I'll say that if Jalen Milroe keeps this up throughout the season, given what Kalen DeBoer's offense is supposed to be, he is coach of the year for transitioning things to fit Jalen Milroe. And that's as impressive as what Nick Saban did for Jalen Milroe. I guess at some point I'm going to have to give credit to Jalen Milroe and not the coaches. But, if he does it, that's pretty darn impressive. I just think that that's an easy match at Wisconsin. And so I don't think that when you get to playing even the LSUs of the world, despite how poorly managed their defense is under Brian Kelly, I think they're too fast for Jalen Milroe to be able to do what he's been doing in Kalen DeBoer's offense.
Show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Give us an update on that poll question as to who should be the next coach at Florida. And we may have some Florida people in here, so you should vote for Alec Golesh. But if you don't, and you're not a Florida fan, then you can vote on one of the other goofballs on there, which is who, Caleb?
Urban Meyer and John Gruden.
Who would you most like to see get that job?
I mean, I like my programs. I like very Christian men to run very Christian programs with high ethics and morals. And Urban Meyer did that at Florida with Tim Tebow and the high character of the program that he ran. They were all choir boys at Florida when Urban Meyer was there. And I want a real good, solid Christian man to run my program like Urban Meyer.
Yeah, that's Urban. That's Urban, who also reminds you in that video that we're going to hear. He goes, yeah, I am Irish Catholic. It was hard to turn down Notre Dame. I still don't know and he even said, I don't know if anybody's actually reported this or not. Maybe it's because it's not true.
I mean, he literally asked them, didn't he say, I need you guys to get rid of your academic standards? And they said no.
I don't think he was ever offered, to be quite frank with you, but maybe he was. But again, back to the Heisman. Who do you think is the greatest threat? Again, projecting forward, you don't think it's Cam Ward is the greatest threat to your prediction of Nico winning the Heisman, do you?
I actually think he's one of them, and this is what I said. I'll get to the other one, but projecting long term, here's why I say Cam Ward. Dave, sometimes really bad coaches can land the perfect fit for their system for 1 year and look like great coaches. And that's exactly what Gene Chizik and Gus Malzahn did when they landed Cam Newton, right?
Yes, and you could argue that Mike Vick elevated that crew from Frank Moore from good to great, or that program from good to great, but it didn't maintain. Go ahead.
I think Cam Ward can do that for Mario Cristobal. Look, I thought that everybody had I had Mario Cristobal as my guy that was going to get fired at the end of the year because I thought Miami was just going to quit on him after what happened last year. But I did say in my caveat that Cam Ward from Washington State's a great pickup. Cam Ward led my Heisman race at the end of September last year before things fell apart.
Okay,
he's a really good quarterback, and he's in a great fit.
I just want to tell you this: who has played a more difficult schedule, Miami or Alabama to this point?
Oh, Alabama.
Okay.
Easily.
Jalen Milroe's passer rating is higher than Cam Ward's, 213 to 209.
Yeah, but that's okay. Passer rating versus total QBR is a little bit different. I'm a little more of a total QBR guy, and also
Okay, so you're telling me that Nico, who by the way is number 12 with a 182, if you're telling me that he gets pulled at the first half of every game because you see the most electric offense in the history of college football, I'm not predicting it's going to happen, but let's just say that's the case, and he averages 250 yards a game, but Jackson Dart averages 390 yards a game, you're going to give it to Jackson Dart because of that?
No. I'm projecting on what I've seen so far to this point. Nico really hasn't had the chance to show off because he hasn't been needed to. But that's not going to happen throughout the year for the most part. Now, my projection, my projection is who the biggest threat to Nico Iamaleava is going to be throughout the year?
Now I'm curious. Who?
Because the media loves them, because the media can't stop talking about them, and because they make concessions for him that I've never seen them make for another coach if a coach said this stuff. Travis Hunter is going to be a threat to Nico. And because of Deion Sanders and that talk.
No.
That's crazy.
No.
Guys.
Do you want me to tell you why?
Why?
Because Heisman voters, we're people too. And I don't like the fact that he called a reporter out, banned a reporter, that he didn't have the class to handle that behind closed doors. I have never covered a coach that hasn't reached out to me and behind closed doors, we had a problem and we hashed it out and it wasn't public. I've never had that happen. So I'll be honest with you. If I'm between Travis Hunter and Jackson Dart for third place on my Heisman vote, when I fill it out, that shouldn't be a factor in my mind, but it's going to be a factor in my mind.
But Dave, okay, I feel like Travis Hunter could be elevated from people who like Deion. My experience, I've never seen a player punished because people don't like their head coach. Have you?
Well, listen, if you were talking about Shedeur Sanders and they won 8 games and he plays quarterback, that's a different argument. You're already asking me to reach for a Charles Woodson type two-way player, which doesn't really happen anymore. You're asking me to reach for a defensive player, and then you're throwing Deion shenanigans on top of it. I think you just built a big mess.
Okay. I could see that. I could see Shedeur and Travis Hunter down there. Just to give you an example, it was nowhere near the same. But Dave, let's be honest. Relative to the rest of college football, in the 90s, Steve Spurrier was the brashness version of Deion Sanders, wasn't he?
Except he could coach.
No, I know that, but he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with his behavior, didn't he?
Never reporters.
Never reporters.
See, I don't think John would mind me telling this story. Hit like and subscribe if you want to hear an awesome story. So here's the way it used to work when coaches were accessible. The week that Tennessee would play whoever, Georgia or whatever, we would have Mark Richt on Sports Talk back in the day with John Wilkerson and Jimmy Himes. And the only person that we didn't get was Spurrier, just because he didn't believe in talk radio. I mean, this is a long time ago, guys. Okay. And so, but I will tell you that he had John Adams' personal cell phone number and would call him the week of the Florida game and do an exclusive interview with him that John hadn't even requested. And that's where those quotes popped up from Steve Spurrier gigging Tennessee the week before the Tennessee-Florida game. They weren't complimentary quotes. One time it was to this tune. It was, he just wanted to talk about Pat Summitt. You know, I respect Pat Summitt so much. You know why? Because she wins championships. That's what she's a championship coach. And I really respect championship coaches. Well, Philip Fulmer didn't have one. It was an obvious slap in the face to him. It was a column about Pat Summitt before the Tennessee-Florida game. Where do you get other information like this? Hit like and subscribe. Turn the notifications on. Ring the bell. If you like, give Quincy Calhoun some college money with one of the super chats. Caleb?
Okay.
No, so Steve Spurrier was beloved by the media because I guarantee you did that with the Tallahassee paper too and the Miami Herald. So he was loved by the media. You're talking about somebody in Deion Sanders that is probably detested by most of the media.
No, and that's fair. That's fair. I'm going to have to reroute. And maybe that's why, to be fair, part of the media, they may not like the way.
By the way, Caleb, when you say reroute, you're basically saying, oh, I was wrong.
I am.
Okay,
no, I'm acknowledging it. I don't run from it. No, you have a great point. And the more I think about it, I should have known better because I do this as a media person too, because I love Spurrier. And it does. I maintain that I think the reason I think one of the reasons Peyton Manning didn't win the Heisman, you talk about ESPN trying to prop up a competition. I think many media members despise Philip Fulmer because he wasn't a good interview, and they missed Johnny Majors, who's the best interview you could ever get. Is that crazy of me to think?
No, I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah,
no, I think that's spot on.
Yeah,
I
think
Philip and I had a contentious relationship at some points. We did. That's going to happen when things go downhill. That's going to happen when, as a young reporter, I said, the great thing about Jason Witten is you can line him up outside. And I got a phone call from Philip Fulmer in Knoxville at 8:30 in the morning in my office. And then I flew to LSU where they were playing. And so I don't want to say cursed out, but I'll say cursed out. So I got cursed out in Knoxville, flew to Baton Rouge, and on the field of Tiger Stadium, got cursed out again because I accidentally said something on the radio about Jason Witten lining up out wide. And I really didn't realize I was giving away specific information, but I was in the wrong. So, yeah, that's the difference between a coach and whatever the heck Deion Sanders is.
Okay, fair enough. So back to the point. That's fair. So you're right. Because of the Ingrid Deion Sanders, Travis Hunter could be punished. I'm just thinking, and I'm creating patterns out of history here, and I'm looking at Tennessee's history of losing the Heisman. It's to a losing team and a team that had a two-way player. Travis Hunter is going to be a two-way player on a losing team. I mean, and so it just seems like a perfect fit. I could just see it happening because of that.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, but you're saying if it came down to Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders, you think Shedeur Sanders would be a bigger threat before Travis Hunter, right?
Yes, but I don't think either will be a threat because I don't think they're going to win more than 5 games, and I think Deion's rubbed people the wrong way.
Yeah, he went from entertaining last year to I think people are it's his act is just tired now, honestly. I think that's the only, which we'll talk about later on the show, but his act really is just tired. But okay, so we got Cam Ward. I still maintain Cam Ward's going to be a legit threat. And I am going to stick with that, but I don't think Carson Beck will be a threat. I don't think Quinn Ewers will be a threat. I don't think Jalen Milroe will be a threat. So I'm going to go with Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, and I'm going to stick with Travis Hunter as the biggest threats to Nico Iamaleava.